John Neville Maskelyne was a foundational figure in the history of British magic. He wasn't just a performer, he was an institution builder. In 1873, he co-leased St. George's Hall in London, which became England's premier home for magical entertainment for over 30 years. Maskelyne, along with his partner David Devong, presented refined, clever illusions that moved magic away from the supernatural and towards intellectual entertainment. He was also a fierce debunker of fraudulent spiritualists, famously recreating the tricks of mediums to expose their methods. He is even credited with inventing the pay toilet, a device that certainly has its own kind of magic. Maskelyne fathered a magical dynasty, with his son and grandson following him onto the stage. He passed away from natural causes at his home in London on May 18, 1917. He was a towering figure whose influence shaped how magic was presented for generations. His final resting place is far from the grand London stage he commanded. He is buried in the peaceful churchyard of St. Mary's Church in the small village of North Perrott, Somerset, England. The grave is a simple, traditional family plot, a quiet end for a man who made so much magical noise. David Devong was the brilliant artistic partner of John Neville Maskelyne, and is considered by many to be one of the greatest magicians England has ever produced. He was known for his charming stage presence and his belief that magic should be entertaining first and foremost. His famous illusions, like the artist's dream and his magic kettle from which any drink could be poured, captivated audiences at St. George's Hall. He was the first president of the newly formed Magic Circle in 1905. His career, however, was cut tragically short. In his later years, he developed what was then called paralysis agitans, now known as Parkinson's disease. The illness gradually robbed him of his physical dexterity and his ability to perform. Despite having earned a fortune, poor financial decisions left him nearly destitute. In a touching display of loyalty, the magic community, led by the Magic Circle, created a fund to support him in his final years. Devong passed away on October 13, 1941. He is buried in Highgate Cemetery in London, a famous Victorian resting place known for its elaborate tombs. Devong's grave, however, is quite modest, marked by a simple headstone, giving little hint of the magical giant who lies beneath. Ricky Jay was a magician's magician, a modern master whose skill was almost terrifying in its perfection. He was a world-renowned expert in sleight of hand, particularly with playing cards, which he could handle with a grace and deadliness that was legendary. He wasn't just a performer, he was a scholar, an actor, and a historian of the strange and unusual. He wrote celebrated books on con artists and unique entertainers and acted in films for directors like David Mamet and Paul Thomas Anderson. His one-man shows, like Ricky Jay and his 52 assistants, were theatrical events that elevated close-up magic to a high art form. Jay was notoriously private, cultivating an aura of intellectual mystique. He died of natural causes in Los Angeles on November 24, 2018, at the age of 72. His passing was mourned by magicians, actors, and artists around the world who recognized his singular genius. Ricky Jay was buried in Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City, California, a prominent Jewish cemetery. His final resting place is marked by a simple, flat granite headstone, inscribed in both English and Hebrew. It's an understated memorial for a man whose life was dedicated to the most profound and elegant forms of deception. Harry Keller was the preeminent American magician of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. For decades he was the face of magic in the United States, known for his large-scale stage illusions and his iconic poster image, which often featured his head and mischievous-looking imps whispering in his ear. He toured the world with a massive show, performing grand levitations and decapitation illusions. He was a master of self-promotion and became a household name. He was the direct predecessor to figures like Thurston and Houdini, and in a famous onstage ceremony in 1908, he symbolically passed the mantle of magic to Howard Thurston. After retiring, Keller settled in Los Angeles. He suffered from influenza and pneumonia following a pulmonary hemorrhage and passed away at his home on March 10, 1920. His death marked the end of an era. Harry Keller's remains are interred in a crypt within the beautiful Mausoleum of the Golden West at Angeles Rosedale Cemetery in Los Angeles. The bronze plaque marking his crypt is simple, bearing his name and dates, but its location in one of the city's oldest and most historic cemeteries is a fitting final curtain for the former Dean of American Magicians. Vernon, known affectionately as the Professor, was arguably the most influential close-up magician of the 20th century. He didn't play 2,000-seat theaters. His stage was the few feet between himself and his audience. Vernon revolutionized card magic, creating techniques and routines that are now fundamental to the art. He was famous for being the man who fooled Houdini, having performed a card trick for the escape artist that Houdini could not figure out. For many years, Vernon was the resident magician at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, a private club for magicians, where he mentored and inspired generations of the world's best performers, including Ricky Jay and Doug Henning. He was a living legend who shaped the very vocabulary of modern sleight of hand. Vernon lived a long life, passing away at the age of 98 on August 21, 1992. His final resting place is as unique as his life. He was cremated, and his ashes are interred in a niche in the wall of the Houdini seance room at the Magic Castle. A small plaque marks the spot, making it a place of pilgrimage for magicians who visit the club, allowing the professor to remain at the heart of the world he loved. Charles Joseph Carter, who performed under the stage name Carter the Great, was a quintessential world-touring illusionist from the golden age of magic. While names like Houdini and Thurston dominated the American scene, Carter took his enormous and spectacular show to the far corners of the globe, performing extensively in Australia, New Zealand, India, China, and the Middle East. He traveled with tons of equipment, live animals, and a full company of assistants. His illusions were classic and grand, making a live elephant disappear, sawing a woman in half, and his signature cheating the gallows escape. His career was a whirlwind of international travel and adventure. After decades on the road, Carter retired but was drawn back for one final tour. During a stop in Bombay, India, he suffered a massive heart attack and died. His body was transported back to the United States for burial. He is interred at Calvary Cemetery in Seattle, Washington. Carter's grave is marked by a large and impressive monument. It's a stone pillar topped with an urn and prominently features a sculpted likeness of a sphinx, a nod to the mystery and exoticism that were central to his magical image. Adelaide Hammond was a true pioneer and is rightly known as the Queen of Magic. She began her career as a dancer and assistant to her husband, the famous magician Alexander Henning. When Alexander died suddenly in 1896, everyone expected his show to fold. But Adelaide, a formidable performer in her own right, stepped into the spotlight. She took over the massive illusion show and toured for over 2 decades, becoming one of the first and most successful female magicians in history. She was known for her grace, elegance, and daring. She performed the notoriously dangerous bullet catch trick, a feat few magicians would attempt, and was famous for her cremation illusion, where she was locked in a coffin that was then set ablaze. She proved that a woman could be the star of the show, not just a decorative assistant. In her later years, her fortunes declined, and she tragically lost most of her equipment in a warehouse fire. Adelaide Hammond died from pneumonia on February 19. She is buried alongside her husband, Alexander, in the Herman family plot at the beautiful Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York. A final reunion for Magic's first great power couple. Alexander Hammond, known professionally as Hammond the Great, was the man who defined the very image of a magician for his era. With his pointed goatee, mustache, and devilish grin, he was the archetype of the sophisticated, slightly Mephistophelian conjurer. He was a member of a famous European family of magicians and became a naturalized U.S. citizen, where he achieved his greatest fame. He performed with a sense of humor and an elegant flair that was unmatched. His show was a mix of grand stage illusions and exquisite sleight of hand. He was a master of publicity and a huge star, traveling the country in his own custom-built railroad car. His life on the road was luxurious and constant. It was on that very railroad car, traveling between shows in New York State, that his career came to an abrupt end. He suffered a massive heart attack and died on December 17, 1896 at the age of just 52. His sudden death shocked the entertainment world. His body was brought back to New York City, and he was interred in a family plot at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx. His grave is marked by a monument featuring a globe, a testament to his worldwide fame. James Randi was a master of deception who spent most of his life exposing it. He began his career as a stage magician and escape artist under the name The Amazing Randi, performing incredible feats like escaping from a locked safe dropped into the Niagara River. But he found his true calling as the world's foremost investigator of paranormal and pseudoscientific claims. Through the James Randi Educational Foundation, he offered a $1 million prize to anyone who could demonstrate a supernatural ability under agreed-upon scientific testing conditions. The prize was never claimed. He famously exposed the tricks of supposed faith healer Peter Popoff and Uri Geller, the spoon-bending psychic. Randi was a relentless and charming crusader for reason and critical thinking, using his insider knowledge of trickery to peel back the curtain on those who would defraud the public. He passed away from age-related causes on October 20, 2020, at the age of 92. In keeping with his scientific and secular worldview, Randi chose not to have a traditional grave. He was cremated, and as per his wishes, ashes were given to his partner, Davy Pina, to be scattered in places that were special to them. His final act was not one of magical illusion, but of quiet, personal sentiment. Harry Blackstone Jr. grew up in the shadow of a legend. His father was the great Harry Blackstone Sr., one of America's most celebrated magicians. For a time, the younger Blackstone resisted the call of the stage, working in broadcasting and as a writer, but magic was in his blood. In the 1970s and 80s, he revived his father's spectacular illusion show, updating it for a new generation. With his booming voice, commanding presence, and thick dark hair, he became a familiar face on television and Broadway. He performed many of his father's classic illusions, like the floating light bulb, but also created his own, including making an elephant disappear at a disco. He was a beloved figure who served as a bridge between the golden age of stage magic and the modern era. Sadly, Blackstone Jr. was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away on May 14, 1997. His final resting place is deeply connected to his family's magical legacy. He is buried in Lakeside Cemetery in Colon, Michigan. Colon is known as the magic capital of the world and was his father's hometown. He is buried in the Blackstone family plot, not far from his father, forever part of the magical soil of the town. Howard Thurston was the man who inherited the throne of American magic. After Harry Keller retired, Thurston became the country's preeminent illusionist, touring for over 2 decades with a show that was even bigger and more spectacular than his predecessors. He traveled with more than 60 tons of equipment, filling multiple railroad cars. His posters, with the famous slogan "Thurston is the wonder show of the universe," were plastered across the country. He was known for his levitation of Princess Karnak in his grand card scaling finales, where he would magically produce and then fling thousands of playing cards out into the vast theaters. He was a superstar of his time, a true master of the grand stage spectacle. In 1935, Thurston suffered a cerebral hemorrhage that left him partially paralyzed, forcing him to retire. He passed away from pneumonia the following year. Thurston is entombed in a crypt at the Green Lawn Abbey Mausoleum in his hometown of Columbus, Ohio. For many years, the mausoleum fell into disrepair, and Thurston's final resting place was neglected. However, in recent years, preservation societies have worked to restore the building, ensuring the wonder show of the universe has a more dignified final home. Siegfried Fischbacher, along with his partner Roy Horn, redefined the magic show for the modern era. As Siegfried and Roy, they created a Las Vegas spectacle that was unlike anything seen before. Their show at the Mirage was a multi-million-dollar production filled with grand illusions, elaborate costumes, and their signature white tigers and lions. They were global superstars, the embodiment of Vegas glamour and excess. For decades, they were the kings of the Las Vegas Strip. Their reign came to a shocking and tragic end on October 3, 2003, when Roy was critically injured on stage by one of their white tigers. Roy survived but was left with permanent injuries, and the show closed immediately. Siegfried dedicated himself to caring for Roy. Roy Horn passed away from complications of COVID-19 in May of 2020. Himself died from pancreatic cancer on January 13, 2021. Their ashes were originally planned to be co-located at their Little Bavaria estate in Las Vegas. Siegfried is now interred at Palm Downtown Mortuary and Cemetery in Las Vegas. He rests near the final resting place of Roy Horn, forever united with his partner in the city they helped build. Sigmund Neuberger, known to the world as the Great Lafayette, was one of the highest-paid entertainers of the vaudeville era. He was known for his quick-change artistry and lavish dramatic illusions, but he was most famous for his eccentric personality and his all-consuming love for his dog, a terrier named Beauty. Beauty was his constant companion, a gift from Harry Houdini. The dog lived a life of luxury, with its own suite in hotels and meals served on fine china. Lafayette had made a promise that when one of them died, the other would not be far behind. Tragically, Beauty died just a few days before a performance in Edinburgh, Scotland. A heartbroken Lafayette arranged for the dog to be interred in a human cemetery. Then, on May 9, 1911, during a performance of his Lion's Bride, Illusion, a stage lamp fell and started a catastrophic fire at the Empire Theatre. Lafayette helped get his cast to safety but rushed back into the inferno, seemingly to rescue his horse. He never made it out. 10 people died in the blaze. When a body dressed in Lafayette's costume was found, it was prepared for burial. But then, workers found another body, identified as the real Lafayette by his rings. The first body had been his body double. True to his promise, the great Lafayette was laid to rest in Pearsall Cemetery in Edinburgh, buried in the same plot as his beloved dog. Doug Henning was a burst of tie-dyed energy that revived the public's interest in magic in the 1970s. With his long hair, mustache, and boundless childlike enthusiasm, he was the antithesis of the old-fashioned, tuxedo-clad magician. He brought magic to Broadway with his hit show, The Magic Show, which ran for over 4 years. He followed that with a series of annual, live television specials called Doug Henning's World of Magic, which became must-see events for millions of families. He performed grand illusions, like making an elephant disappear and walking through a brick wall, all with a playful, hippie-esque charm that was infectious. His goal wasn't just to fool people, but to fill them with a sense of wonder. In the mid-1980s, Henning retired from the stage to devote his life to the study of transcendental meditation, even planning to build a spiritually themed amusement park in Canada. In the late 1990s, he was diagnosed with throat cancer. He sought both conventional and alternative treatments, but the disease progressed. Doug Henning died on February 7, 2000, at the age of just 52, a believer in reincarnation. Henning did not have a grave. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Redondo Beach, California. Harry Blackstone Sr. was one of the titans of 20th century magic, a contemporary and rival to both Houdini and Thurston. He was a commanding figure on stage, a handsome and charismatic performer who embodied the classic image of the master magician. He toured the country for decades with a massive illusion show, famous for routines like the dancing handkerchief and the vanishing birdcage. His most iconic illusion was the floating light bulb, where an illuminated bulb would float off its base and out over the audience, a truly magical and beautiful effect that audiences never forgot. Blackstone was a true showman who also performed for U.S. troops during World War II and starred in his own comic book series. He continued performing well into his later years, a beloved patriarch of the magical arts. He passed away from what was described as a natural infirmity on November 16, 1965, at the age of 80. Blackstone's connection to magic is cemented in his final resting place. He is buried at Lakeside Cemetery in Colon, Michigan, the small town he adopted as his home and which is now revered as the magic capital of the world. His grave is a prominent family plot, and each year the Society of American Magicians performs a broken wand ceremony at his gravesite, a solemn and beautiful ritual honoring a departed master. The story of Chung Ling Soo is one of the most bizarre and tragic in the history of magic. His real name was William Ellsworth Robinson, and he was an American-born magician from New York. For years he struggled to find success under his own name, but when he saw the popularity of a genuine Chinese magician named Chung Ling Soo, Robinson saw an opportunity. He shaved his head, grew a queue, adopted elaborate Chinese robes, and reinvented himself as Chung Ling Soo. He never spoke English on stage, using an interpreter for his press interviews and interactions. The act was a phenomenal success, making him one of the highest-paid performers in European music halls. His most famous illusion was condemned to death by the boxers, his version of the bullet catch. The trick involved two assistants firing marked bullets from muskets at him, which he would appear to catch on a plate. On the night of March 23, 1918, at the Wood Green Empire in London, something went horribly wrong. Due to a malfunction caused by residue buildup in one of the specially rigged guns, the bullet fired for real. It struck Robinson in the chest. In shock, he broke character for the first and last time on stage, exclaiming, "Oh my God, something's happened." Lower the curtain. He died the next morning. He is buried under his stage name at East Sheen Cemetery in London, a final tragic commitment to the character he created. No name is more synonymous with magic than Houdini. Born Eric Vaj in Hungary, he became a global icon through his unparalleled skills as an escape artist. He freed himself from handcuffs, straitjackets, jail cells, water-filled tanks, and sealed crates dropped in icy rivers. He was a master of self-promotion, a physical marvel, and a relentless debunker of fraudulent spiritualists who claimed to contact the dead. His death is as legendary as his life. It did not happen in a water torture cell, but from a seemingly minor incident. While in his dressing room in Montreal, a student asked if it was true he could withstand any punch to the stomach. Before Houdini could prepare himself, the student delivered several blows. The punches ruptured Houdini's appendix, though he didn't realize the severity at first and continued to perform for several more days. Finally collapsing, he was diagnosed with peritonitis. He died on Halloween. He made a pact with his wife, Bess, that if it were possible to communicate from beyond the grave, he would send her a secret code. For 10 years, Bess held a seance on the anniversary of his death, but the message never came. Houdini is buried in Machpelah Cemetery in Queens, New York. Ornate family plot featuring a bust of Houdini, large granite benches, and a mosaic of the seal of the Society of American Magicians. It is a pilgrimage site for magicians and fans, where a broken wand ceremony is still held in his honor, a permanent memorial to the man who escaped everything but death.